Have you ever witnessed a blatant injustice right before your eyes? The story you're about to hear will make you reflect on power, prejudice, and the strength of a mother. Today, we'll delve into a shocking incident in Phoenix, Arizona. An ordinary Monday afternoon suddenly turned into a nightmare for 13-year-old Maya Johnson. On a sweltering Monday afternoon outside Northwood Middle School in Phoenix, Arizona, the final school bell rang, releasing a flood of students onto the surrounding streets. Among them was Maya Johnson, a 13-year-old girl standing on a street corner, scrolling through messages on her phone while waiting for her mother to pick her up. Maya was a good student who enjoyed reading and cherished her long, dark braided hair. As Maya was engrossed in her phone, a black and white Phoenix police patrol car slowly pulled up nearby. The police officer, Thomas Miller, a middle-aged man with a stern expression, stepped out of the vehicle. There had recently been reports of a minor theft in the area, and Miller was keeping an eye out for anyone who seemed suspicious. Seeing Maya standing alone, looking a little uneasy, a thought flickered through his mind that she might be involved. "Aren't you a little far from home?" His voice was casual, but there was something in the way he looked at her that made her skin crawl. Maya looked up, confused. "I'm waiting for my mom," she replied, slipping her phone into her hoodie pocket. Miller stepped closer. "What's your name?" She hesitated. She didn't owe him an answer, but something in his tone made her uncomfortable. "Maya," she said finally. Miller looked at her for a moment before reaching for his radio. "We might have a possible match for a suspect involved in the theft," a black female, around 12 or 13 years old, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. Maya's heart began to pound. "I wasn't involved in any theft," she said firmly. "I'm just waiting for my mom." But Miller wasn't listening. He mumbled something into his radio and turned back to her. "Come with me, kid. We'll sort this out at the station." Maya's stomach tightened. I didn't do anything wrong." The school parking lot was still full of children, parents, and teachers, but somehow no one seemed to notice what was happening. The girl's pulse raced. That's when Miller reached for his handcuffs. Maya took a step back, her breath catching in her throat. "You can't do this," she cried, but he didn't care. Before she could react, he grabbed her wrist and twisted it behind her back. The cold metallic click of the handcuffs locked around her small wrist, biting into her skin. A few students gasped. A teacher finally noticed and hurried towards them. "Officer, what's going on here?" "Situation with a theft suspect," Miller said nonchalantly. The teacher frowned. "I know this girl. She's not a suspect." Miller barely looked at her. "It's our job to verify." Maya's throat tightened as he steered her towards the patrol car. No one stopped him. No one intervened. And just like that, she was being taken away for no reason. Unjustly. With no one standing up for her. But Officer Miller had no idea who he had just messed with. The patrol car pulled away from the school. Maya pressed herself into the cold leather seat, her hands still cuffed behind her back. Her breathing was shallow, her mind racing. How is this happening? How could this be happening? She turned her head towards the window, watching the school disappear as panic clawed at her chest. She had seen stories like this on the news, wrongful arrests, racial profiling, but she had never imagined it would happen to her. Officer Miller glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You got a guardian or someone we should call?" "My mom," she said through gritted teeth. "She's on her way to pick me up." "This is a mistake," Miller chuckled dryly. "They all say that." Maya swallowed the lump in her throat. "I have my student ID in my bag. It proves who I am. You can call the school. They'll tell you I wasn't involved in any theft." But Miller didn't even look back. "We'll sort this out at the station." Maya clenched her fists, her fingernails digging into her palms. "This isn't fair," she mumbled. Miller sneered. "Life ain't fair, kid." The drive seemed endless, each second stretching out longer than the last. But when they arrived at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, her stomach twisted. The car rolled through a back gate, stopping near a gray steel door. Miller got out first and then opened the back door, grabbing her arm as if she were a hardened criminal. "Out." Maya stumbled as he led her inside, past officers typing on computers and answering phones. A few glanced their way, some curious, others indifferent. No one asked why a young girl was being led through the station in handcuffs. A female officer, Sergeant Jones, noticed and frowned. "What's this?" "Picked her up outside Northwood Middle. Fits the description of a theft suspect," Miller said flatly. Jones narrowed her eyes. "You sure?" Miller shrugged. "Close enough." Maya's heart sank. "Close enough?" Sergeant Jones crossed her arms. Looking at Maya, "Doesn't look like your suspect to me." Maya seized the opportunity. "Because I'm not. My name is Maya Johnson. My mom's on her way to get me. You can check my school records." Jones's lips thinned into a line. "Did you search her?" Miller sighed, clearly annoyed. "She's a kid. What's she gonna have? A concealed weapon?" Jones said firmly. "Then take the cuffs off." "She's not resisting." Miller rolled his eyes but unlocked the handcuffs. Maya rubbed her aching wrists, blinking back tears of humiliation. "Put her in a holding cell," Miller muttered before walking away. Maya's stomach plummeted. "Holding cell?" Sergeant Jones seemed hesitant but nodded towards a door to the side. "Come on, honey." Maya followed her steps heavy. They walked down a narrow hallway until they reached a small processing room with gray cinder block walls and flickering fluorescent lights overhead. "Sit down," Jones instructed, gesturing to a hard plastic chair. Maya sat down, crossing her arms over her chest. Jones sighed. She typed something into the computer. "Let's see if we can get this straightened out." But before she could do anything, Miller reappeared, holding a pair of scissors. "We need to cut her hair," he said as if discussing paperwork. Maya's heart stopped. Jones frowned. "Excuse me?" "Standard procedure," Miller said dismissively. "Hygiene reasons." Jones shook her head. "That's not a thing." Miller smirked. "It is now." Maya's hands gripped the sides of the chair. "You can't do that." Miller's smirk didn't fade. "Watch me." And that's when things went from bad to much worse. Maya's body stiffened. Her fingers dug deep into the plastic chair beneath her as she stared at the scissors in Officer Miller's hand. "You can't," she stammered. "You can't just cut my hair." Miller shrugged. "It's policy." Sergeant Jones's expression darkened. It's not." Miller let out a dry laugh, twirling the scissors between his fingers. "Well, let's just call it a new policy then. Kids come in here, we make sure they're clean. That hair of hers, who knows what's in it?" Maya's breath hitched. "There's nothing in my hair. You're just trying to humiliate me." Miller tilted his head. "Or maybe I'm just following procedure. Now sit still or I'll have to do this the hard way." Maya's hands flew up to shield her braids. But before she could move, Miller grabbed the back of her hoodie and yanked her forward. "Stop." Jones's voice cut across the room, sharp and commanding. "This isn't happening." Miller turned back to her. His eyes narrowed. "Are you interfering with an officer's duty?" "Sergeant, I'm interfering with whatever power trip you're on." The two locked eyes in a silent battle. But Miller was determined. He turned back to Maya and grabbed a fistful of her braided hair. Maya screamed, struggling in the chair, kicking her legs desperately. But Miller was stronger. His grip tightened, yanking her head back. Jones lunged forward, grabbing Miller's arm. "Enough. Let go. She's just a kid. She's a suspect." Miller growled. Jones stepped between them, breathing heavily. "You want to assault a child? You'll do it over my dead body." Miller glared at her, his chest heaving with anger. Then, without another word, he threw the scissors onto the table and stormed out of the room. The moment he was gone, Maya let out a shaky breath, her whole body trembling. Her scalp burned where he had grabbed her hair. Sergeant Jones knelt down beside her. "Are you okay?" Tears welled up in Maya's eyes, but she blinked them back. "I just want my mom." Jones nodded and reached for the phone. "We'll call your mom right now." But before she could dial, another officer walked into the room, Captain Davis. A tall, powerfully built black man with a stern expression. His sharp eyes scanned from Maya to Jones. "Where's Miller?" Davis asked, his voice deep and gravelly. "He left," Jones said. "He was trying to pull something." She sighed, shaking her head. Davis turned to Maya. "You all right, kid?" Maya could barely speak. She just nodded. Davis's expression softened slightly. "Your mom's on her way." Maya breathed a sigh of relief. But it didn't last long, because suddenly Miller was back in the doorway with the same smug look on his face. "Her mother just arrived," he announced as if it were nothing. "Let's see if she can lie her way out of this." Miller smirked. "That's right. The atmosphere in the police station shifted instantly as a woman walked in, carrying an undeniable air of authority. It was Colonel Sarah Johnson. Though dressed in civilian clothes, her ramrod-straight posture, piercing gaze, and powerful presence radiated rank and discipline. Her eyes swept across the room, stopping on Maya, who sat huddled and frightened. Maya, her voice was both worried and firm. Maya looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "Mom," she almost sobbed, running to embrace her mother. Sarah held her daughter tightly, her eyes filled with love but also a barely concealed fury as she saw the red marks on the girl's wrists. Colonel Johnson broke the embrace and looked directly at Captain Davis. "I am Colonel Sarah Johnson, Maya's mother. I want to know what happened." Captain Davis, his expression grave, began to explain the incident briefly, trying to maintain a neutral tone. Just then, Officer Miller stepped forward, a hint of his earlier smugness still clinging to his face, though his eyes flickered with uncertainty as he took in the woman's presence. "Colonel," Miller said, trying to sound casual but his voice was slightly hoarse, "we were just following procedure. This girl matched the description." Sarah turned sharply, her steely blue eyes locking onto Miller. "What description? What description allows you to apprehend an innocent child, handcuff her, and attempt to cut her hair against her will?" Her voice was ice cold, each word like a sharp blade. Miller froze, the smugness completely vanishing from his face, replaced by confusion and anxiety. He stammered, his eyes darting away. I didn't know she was the colonel's daughter. Sarah's lips curled into a presritelno, contemptuous sneer. "You don't need to know whose daughter she is to treat a human being with basic respect and adhere to the law. Your actions were a blatant abuse of power and utterly disgraceful." She turned to Captain Davis, her voice hardening. "I want to see the entire security footage. Now." Within minutes, the room fell silent as everyone watched the recording of the entire incident. Colonel Johnson's face grew colder with each passing second, her brow furrowing slightly as she witnessed her daughter's mistreatment. Miller stood nearby, swallowing hard, a cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. He glanced at Captain Davis with a pleading look, but the captain's expression remained stern. When the footage ended, she turned to Captain Davis, her eyes unwavering. "I demand that Officer Thomas Miller be held fully accountable for his actions." Without hesitation, Captain Davis commanded, his voice firm, "Officer Miller, you are hereby stripped of your badge and placed on indefinite suspension. Effective immediately. This matter will be forwarded to Internal Affairs for a full investigation." Miller's face went ashen, his eyes wide with disbelief. He stammered, his voice trembling, "No, this can't be. Captain, I just thought." He tried to justify himself, but Captain Davis signaled two other officers to escort him away. Miller offered weak resistance. "Please, just listen to me. This is a misunderstanding." But no one listened. Miller's badge and gun were confiscated on the spot, the clink of metal echoing coldly in the silent room. Before Miller was led away, Colonel Johnson walked up to him. She looked him straight in the eye, her voice low but steely, sending a shiver down his spine. "This is just the beginning. Officer Miller, you laid hands on my daughter. I will ensure that you pay for what you've done. You will face the consequences for your abuse of power and your misconduct." Miller hung his head, unable to meet her resolute gaze, fear gripping him. Days later, news of the incident spread rapidly through the media. Colonel Sarah Johnson hired a top legal team and filed a federal civil lawsuit against Officer Miller and the police department for wrongful arrest, abuse of power, and causing emotional distress to her daughter. Thomas Miller's career was ruined. He was not only dismissed in disgrace but also faced a difficult civil trial, where his discriminatory actions and abuse of power would be laid bare for the public to see. The memory of Colonel Johnson's cold stare and the fear of his bleak future haunted him. Maya Johnson's story became a stark reminder of the issue of police misconduct and the importance of standing up against injustice, even when facing those in power. If you found this story meaningful, please like the video to show your support. Don't forget to share it to spread the message of justice. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts on the incident. And finally, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other compelling stories.